Thank you, members. I now recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Haddad. Representative Atal. Representative Selena Babauta.
Present.
Representative Sheila Babauta.
Present.
Representative Joel Komatsu. Representative Vicente Komatsu. Representative Angel Dimapan. Representative Flores. Representative Guerrero. Representative Lizama. Representative Magofnia. Representative Manglonia.
Present.
Representative Probst.
Present.
Representative Christina Sablan. Representative John Paul Sablan. Representative St. Nicholas. Representative Staffler.
Present.
Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Representative Yanktamite. Representative Yumo. Representative Vicente Komatsu. Representative Dimapan. Mr. Speaker, 18 members are present and 2 members are absent.
Thank you, clerk. With 18 members present and 2 members absent, this constitutes a quorum to move forward. Please note that Representative Angel Dimapan is hereby excused. I was informed that Representative Roy Adda will be joining us online. Does anybody know about that? Is he's connected? All right. Welcome, Representative Adda. Any word on Representative Vicente Camacho? Will he be joining us online as well? I have not received any communication on whether he'd be present in today's session. Anyone? Members? None? Okay, thank you. Before we move forward to item number 2, public comments, I'd like to recognize the floor leader for the suspension of pertinent rules. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And now for a motion to suspend Rule 9, Section 4D, rules pertaining to communication and bills, and Rule 9, Section 12, rule on amendment, should there be any amendments on certain bills this morning. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. Motion has been made by the floor leader to suspend pertinent rules and has been seconded. Discussion. Ready? Yeah, Representative Sheila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So just for clarification, we are suspending rules to accept bills that were not given notice. And we're also suspending rules to allow for any amendments.
Well, with the amendments, because we do not have a readily available printer and an Elmo and projector and whatnot. This is to suspend in the event that we need to have it handwritten.
So who will be tracking the language? Joe?
The clerk and
And it's
the
recorded
council. Yeah,
for reference.
yeah.
So then all amendments being made don't have to be written or shown in writing.
No, it to allow for written,
Okay.
like literally a written amendment.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I got
I mean,
it.
I know you can say
Handwriting.
that. Yeah, yeah.
A handwritten
Yes,
amendment
yes,
will be allowed for this session.
Yes.
Got it.
Just
Okay.
to make it more accessible for the members.
Okay,
in the
because I
event.
was just wondering, like, how am I going to follow the amendment? Like, listen? Like, okay, so
Well, that too,
handwritten
you
amendment.
can, yeah. But yes, it's for literally
Okay,
handwritten
got
to
it.
allow
So we're
for that.
suspending the rules to allow for that, and we're suspending the rules to allow for any bills that didn't meet the OGA.
Yeah, and also
introduced?
communications. As you know, some of us have received
Communications.
communications from the public auditor and other agencies that
Oh, that's
pertain
right.
to certain things on the agenda. So that did not meet the 72 hours, but we are suspending the rules to accept those communications.
Okay,
And
got
then
it.
also, that also opens it up if you have a unnumbered bill that you would like to introduce, or even communications that you would like to submit. That's what the suspension is for.
Thank you. So clarified, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more discussions, members? Ready? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda.
Yes.
Representative Atal.
Yes.
Representative Selena Babauta. Representative Sheila Babauta.
Again,
Representative Joel Matsu. Representative Flores. Representative Guerrero. Representative Lizama. Representative Magofnia. Representative Mangunia.
Yes.
Representative Probst.
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan? Representative John Paul Sablan? Representative Cindy Claus? Representative Staffler?
Hungan.
Representative Yanktamite? Representative Fimo? Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 18 members voting yes, the motion hereby passes. Thank you. We now move down to item number 2, public comments. The floor is open. Please limit your public comments to what's on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. In the event that we still have more time and you feel like you need to add to your public comment, we can accommodate that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Pete Regis, and I'd like to address the Speaker, Honorable Speaker Edmund Gomez, and distinguished members of the House of Representatives. Again, my name is Pete Regis. I'm representing the Commonwealth Boards Authority. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to the CNMI Office of the Attorney General on House Bill. Let me start. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to testify in connection with the your review of House Bill 22-102, which exempt public corporation and autonomous agencies from paying the 1% public auditor fee. Let me begin by giving a brief history of this time. And I asked the members to provide me a little latitude because this is a little bit longer speech. I'd like to do it as soon as possible and as quickly as I can. November 2015, CPA wrote to the CNMI Office of the Attorney General regarding CPA's position and proposal on its liability for fees due to the public auditor under 1 CMC subsection 7831B, that law, which is an issue today, requires CPA to pay OPA either 1% of its total operation budget from sources other than legislative appropriations or an amount determined by another formula as agreed upon by OPA and the agency, whichever is greater. In that 2015 letter to the Attorney General, CPA noted the inequity that law imposes on CPA. For example, CPA not only pays for its own independent audit as required by its bond indenture, but OPA uses independent audit to meet its statutory requirement. One of those statutory requirements, which can be found on 1 CMC section 2303A, requires that OPA transmit an annual report that includes a financial audit of each agency to the governor and to the presiding officers of each houses. As you all likely know, OPA uses CPA's independent audit to meet that statutory requirement. Essentially, OPA uses audits and OPA pays for them. Then it later turns around and seeks payment from CPA. On top of that, the payment of OPA requests oftentimes amount to twice what OPA pays its independent auditor. Despite that inquiry, CPA sought to breach the gap and offered to pay OPA 1% of its total operation budget to put this issue to bed. In January 2016, CPA received a response from the Attorney General. He indicated that the gap could not be breached unless the body enacted an equitable exemption to the auditing fee. He noted that if CPA and OPA could reach a mutually acceptable payment, then this office would not object. The Attorney General's office would not object. In November 2017, CPA received a letter from OPA that stated that the amount owed to the CNMI General Fund and not OPA. This is the reason that this bill needs and has included language regarding the appropriation of past unpaid amounts. OPA's letter also stated that it could not agree to CPA's offer of 1% of its total operation budget because it was prohibited by law to do so. In 2020, CPA received a request to submit comments to Senate Bill 21-54, which was essentially a previous version of the bill now before you. In those comments, CPA stated that it has refrained from remitting the 1%, not only because remittance would be inequitable, but also because remittance violates CPA federal grant assurances. These grants assurances are essential requirement placed on CPA by its federal grantors in exchange for federal funds. And let me take this opportunity to remind you that the ports heavily rely on the federal funds in order to operate. The specific grant assurances I'm referring to prohibit CPA from paying more than the value of services received and also prohibited the rest of airport revenue for general economic development activities. Requiring CPA pay the 1% to OPA or the general fund would violate these assurances. And as I alluded to earlier, if CPA violates these grant assurances, then the people of the CNMI, and I repeat, the people of the CNMI, will be faced with the very real possibility that their airports will be closed and unable to operate. And let me mention that, and I'm sure the rest of the members understand this, that the airport, the CPA, the airport and the seaport are the gateway to economic development on any jurisdiction. That is why passage of this bill is critical. FAA has indicated that this issue needs to be resolved immediately and has provided a deadline that is fast approaching. Trying to remember whether it's June 16, this next month. The deadline is probably just, if my memory is correct, probably June 16 next month. For that reason, I call upon this body to keep the airports operable by passing this bill. And I had the letters from FAA circulated to all the members. I understand. I hope everybody has a copy.
Mr. Regis, if you can wrap it up, the time limit.
I'm going to wrap up
Okay,
quickly,
thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
And you can submit your comments too for our.
I will leave the copy to the members too. So the letter that I'm referring to, which is dated May 16, 2022, was sent by Gordon Wong, who is the FAA Airport District Office Manager overseeing the CNMI. That letter states that and I quote, the 1% fee may be considered revenue diversion. Airport revenue must be used for operation maintenance and capital improvement of CPA airports. Revenue diversion could lead to placing CPA in, and I underscore, in non-compliance and leads to sanction as prescribed by 2 CFR section 200.505. CPA may pay for its required service, but the cost for service must be appropriately calculated and documented for costs only related to CPA. Let me be clear that the purpose of this bill is not to create a windfall for CPA, Rather, the purpose is to amend the existing law by providing flexibility to autonomous agencies like CPA, such that it is able to comply with both CNMI law and its federal grant assurances. The bill is fair, provides OPA a path forward by allowing it to charge reasonable fees for service actually rendered. Should OPA one day provide service to CPA, CPA would gladly pay OPA the reasonable value of the service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, for providing me the opportunity to speak today. For this reason, as I just stated, I urge the legislature to act on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Regis, and please submit the written comment if you would like. Yes, recognize your privilege, Rep. Tina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank Mr. Regis for his comments today. Just to clarify, my understanding, just to correct the record, is that what CPA offered OPA was not 1% of the total budget, which is what's already in the law, but 0.01% of the total budget. That at least is my understanding. But I would like to request that Mr. Regis and CPA provide not only the communication that you just read into the record, but also the correspondence that you mentioned. For example, the November 2015 letter to the Office of the Attorney General, the Attorney General's response, OPA's response, in addition to this letter from FAA, which we all have a copy of. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. The floor is still open for public comments. Again, please state your name for the record and the entity you represent.
Buenos dias, people of the board. My name is Aiden Calvo, and I represent the students of RHI. As of August 15, 2008, in accordance with Public Law number 16-10, $120,000 is allocated towards paving the RHI parking lot. However, paving the RHI parking lot, these funds have laid dormant for years due to the lack of aggregate. As such, our group of RHI students would like to propose amending this law. We want to reallocate this money towards constructing a basketball court within the campus. So this is just another way of encouraging our students to lead healthier lifestyles. A basketball court, we believe, would substantially benefit the students of RHI, and we believe that they'd appreciate it as well. It serves as an outlet for students to develop physical fitness, speed, hand-eye coordination, and cardiovascular endurance in a way that sports such as baseball or softball might not, providing them a chance to improve their teamwork and communication skills as well. It's my understanding that the gymnasium is under renovation, so the basketball court there is unavailable. And even after the gym is renovated, we will still believe that the court is important because the gym will only be available to the students taking PE and only for that period. Whereas an on-campus basketball court would be accessible to all students at all times. Furthermore, our school often turns down competition invitations from other islands due to the lack of an official full-size basketball court. Having one would give us the opportunity to host games and varsity practice on campus. We do these things because we want our students to know that school isn't just for building their minds, but also to build their bodies. We don't want healthier students, we want a healthier school environment. In amending this law, we hope to provide students attending RHI with a fun and effective outlet for exercise, initiating them in aerobic activities they just weren't able to participate in. These activities would provide an outlet for students to learn about themselves, their interests, and their peers to create healthier lifestyles, socialize with others, engage the minds, and encourage participation in the students of our school. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Calvo. If you would like, you can submit your written public comments for our record for consideration. Thank you. The floor is still open for public comments. Again, please state your name and the entity you represent. Thank you.
Good morning to our Congress and to the officers. My name is Denise Tanya King, and I am the principal at Dr. Rita Hokog Enos Junior and Senior High School. I would like to echo the sentiments of our student, Aiden Calvo, who is an incoming freshman. Public Law 16-10 was written when I was on the Board of Education. The money was directly allocated for a paved parking lot. Unfortunately, as he articulated, there has been no aggregate on island for the past 8 years. The dynamics of the school, if you have ever been to our humble abode, we do not, the only thing the students have, and it's only until recently, are 3 volleyball nets. They don't have a gymnasium. They don't have a basketball court. They don't have a baseball court. And it really breaks my heart. I returned from the JROTC competition in California, and I see what students have in their high schools. Our kids deserve and need better. And I ask you from the bottom of my heart that you amend Public Law 16-10 that reads language that will allocate $120,000 so that these students have a regulation basketball court. Thank you all for your patience and your understanding. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is still open for public comments. Going once, going twice. Recognize Representative Sheila Babal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to ask you if this would be an appropriate time to read Ms. Kina Peters' comment into the record during public comment period. If there's no objection. Can I have it? Where is it?
Was there a request by the public auditor to read her comment?
No, but it was submitted via email and.
Yeah, and we accepted it as that's already going to be accepted into record
Can
as
I
an
read it
official
into the record?
communication.
May I? If there's no objection, I'd like to ask.
Members, no objection? Okay.
That's hers? No, can you just use yours? Thank you. Thank you, members, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. This letter was received on May 24, 2022 via email addressed to Mr. Speaker and the legislature. Dear Speaker Villagomez, it is with disappointment that I make written comments instead of appearing personally before this legislative body. Unfortunately, the Office of the Public Auditor, OPA, received no notice of this important legislation appearing on the agenda in Rota. Travel arrangements were impossible at this late hour, and it is my hope that this letter will adequately communicate the importance of your full attention to the underlying issues raised in House Bill 22-102. Let's start with facts and data. To date, the estimated past due amounts from all autonomous agencies total approximately $40 million. CUC alone makes up approximately 20 million of the total amount due. It is important to note that according to Article 3, Section 12 of the NMI Constitution, any unencumbered fund balance in a fiscal year shall be available for general appropriation. I want to emphasize that the outstanding balance does not go to OPA's account. This $40 million balance goes back to the CNMI Government General Fund and is available for appropriations by this legislative body. For example, the $20 million owed to the general fund from CUC could be used as offset for CNMI government utility bills. We urge you to consider the future financial situation of the CNMI and how much of a difference $40 million could make to the general fund. As you all know, OPA is a statutorily designated independent agency of the Commonwealth government. In order to remain independent and free from political interference, which is important. Through the appropriations process, the CNMI created a funding mechanism to ensure OPA's budgetary needs are met. According to 1 CMC subsection 7831, OPA is supposed to be funded by 1% of all locally generated funds. However, in reality, OPA's funding under 1 CMC subsection 7831B, which requires the same 1% contribution to OPA from the CNMI public corporations and autonomous agencies, has been at risk because nearly all such agencies regularly ignore the law of the Commonwealth. House Bill 22-102, as written, rewards these public entities' disregard of the law, forgives a massive debt owed to the CNMI government general fund, and will impact the ability of OPA to function independently as required by law. As a direct result of the autonomous agencies' failure to pay their annual share of the required 1% funding to OPA, our agency has faced significant downsizing. For example, in 2004, OPA had 5 audit managers, 14 audit staff members, 2 attorneys, and 5 investigators. Currently, OPA has 1 audit manager, 7 audit staff members, 1 attorney, 1 investigations manager, and 4 investigators. House Bill 22-102 would not hold the autonomous agencies and public corporations accountable for their noncompliance, and it would directly threaten OPA's ability to fulfill its constitutional and legislative mandates. Recognized as the sentinel against government malfeasance by the Commonwealth Supreme Court, OPA is the backstop for honesty and accountability for all 3 branches of the Commonwealth government. In Re. St. Nicholas 2013 MP 813, the findings and purpose set forth in House Bill 22-102 that certain autonomous agencies and public corporations do not utilize the audit service of the Office of the Public Auditor is misleading. While certain audit services are contracted directly by some autonomous agencies, there are many services provided by OPA to provide oversight for all aspects of the government, including the autonomous agencies, to include performance audits, investigations, ethics act investigations, assistance with the elections, and other statutorily delegated duties. The 1% fee is not solely an auditing fee, but a fee to support OPA's ability to function independently from the government in order to meet our constitutional and statutory mandates. Furthermore, the suggested fee structure in House Bill 22-102 is unsustainable in light of the many roles that OPA plays within the CNMI government. Quantifying the costs for investigations, elections, and other statutorily mandated services would be difficult. OPA would be put in a compromising situation to have to identify its own revenue stream, potentially impairing its independence. House Bill 22-102 asserts OPA's 1% fee would violate federal entitlements for CPA. As to date, there has not been a determination that OPA's 1% fee puts CPA or other agencies at a financial risk with their federal grantors. CPA has never voiced the need for an expedited timeline to resolve this issue with OPA, as we met with their comptroller back in March 2022. Additionally, CPA has recorded on its most recent audited financial statements and prior audited statements OPA's 1% fee without contingencies, recognizing the legal requirements, but has continually chosen not to remit payments. 2 more paragraphs, Mr. Speaker. Of course, this is not the first bill of its kind seeking to divert or exempt the autonomous agencies or public corporations from paying their obligation to ensure public accountability of the public funds in their care. I have attached our previous opposition comments and the opposition from the Secretary of Finance for a similar bill in 2021. OPA has been in communication with the Secretary of Finance and the Attorney General to help clean up the books and collect the money owed to the general fund from the autonomous agencies. Cleaning up the books shouldn't mean waiving all the autonomous agencies' existing debts required by a law they choose to ignore for years. Since I took office, I have taken steps to meet with various agencies to discuss the OPA 1% fees, but the agencies have taken our concerns lightly, and this issue continues to be unresolved due to almost 26 years of non-compliance with the law. Wow. In conclusion, OPA requests you to consider the potential consequences of waiving this debt and reducing our budget. Furthermore, the CNMI government has been receiving an unprecedented amount of federal money, and the demands for OPA services have never been higher. We will not be able to adequately meet our mandate of detecting fraud, waste, and abuse of funds if we have to reduce our budget. OPA appreciates the consideration of our comments on House Bill 22-102. If you have any questions about OPA's comments, please do not hesitate to contact our office. We hope to hear from you. Sincerely, Kina B. Peter, CPA, Public Auditor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Representative Sheila. Floor is still open for public comments. Again, please state your name for the record and the entity you represent. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Charlene Manglonia. I work for the Commonwealth Ports Authority. I'm the Rota Ports Manager. And I say Rota Ports Manager because I do handle the airport and the seaport. As you guys are aware, Rota is basically very far from Saipan, have very limited resources when it comes to medical. As what our board of director, Regis, stated, right now, FAA is really looking at us. Should FAA closes down the airport, we are left here stranded. I see patients go in and out for referrals, some very critical, where a chopper flies in from Guam. Just early this year, we had our board of director that was Medivac. A chopper came in. Imagine if our airport was shut down. How many lives could not be safe because the airport is closed? Not only that, several months ago, our crane was down. Where does our commodity come in? The airport. So, members, please, I urge you to pass this bill. We are in dire need of these federal funds. And I'll give you guys an example, just for Rota, because I handle the airport and seaport. Our fence was recently completed. If you guys were here, last year after Mangkut, you would have seen our fence propped up with maybe 100 2x4s because Mangkut destroyed it. But guess what? FAA paid 100% of that project. That project cost nearly $6 million. Now, I ask you guys, is the local government going to give us that amount of money to repair our fence? I doubt. Another project that we recently completed was our painting and marking sign, which is required for the airlines to see where they land. That project cost us over $200,000 just to mark up the signs, right? Outrageous. But guess what? FAA paid for that money, that project. So here's the bottom line. Anything that is inside the fence, FAA pays for those projects. And it's very critical that our funding sources keep coming to CPA because our projects are not cheap and we have federal regulations that we need to comply with. So I urge you members to please pass this bill because our airports really depend on it. Not just for our people, but for our, I guess, commodities to come in. So yes, people in general, right? Whether it affects the people directly or indirectly. So I urge you. And I wasn't going to speak today, but just hearing what Representative Babalta was reading from OPA, seriously, we are in, dire need of FAA's money. And we know we cannot depend on the local government because if the local government was to give us the money, we would not be getting millions and millions of dollars. And like I just gave you guys an example, I have several pending projects that would require FAA funding. I have the apron resurfacing. I have the runway resurfacing. And that's just Rota. Okay? Now, our other projects, we have the plumbing coming up, the sewer project. We have the roof terminal coming up. So we have projects coming up. And if you guys do not pass this bill and our funds get suspended from FAA, CPA will not be making any more improvement because we will lack the funding. And our, let's say, pot of money goes on all three airports. It's not Rota, okay, you made 100,000, that's all the renovation you can make. It's not like that. We share the money amongst the three islands. So the operation funding itself goes among the three islands. I would love, to get the big chunk, but I know that we are not producing that much. So we rely on FAA. So please, once again, I urge you guys to please pass this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your public comments. Floor is still open for public comments. All right, I see that there is no further public comments. We'll now move down to item number 3, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have 2 journals ready for adoption. We have the first day of session journal dated April 19, 2022, and the second day first special session journal, April 27, 2022.
Thank you, clerk. I'd now like to recognize the floor leader for the motion to adopt journals.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll offer a motion to adopt first day, first special session journal dated April 19, 2022, and second day, first special session journal dated April 27, 2022. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to adopt first day, first special session journal dated April 19, 2022, and second day, first special session journal dated April 27, 2022, and for adoption, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? All in favor to adopt the journals, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The journals are hereby adopted. We now move down to item number 4, introduction of bills, and I recognize the speaker. Thank you. Introducing House Bill 22-102 to exempt public corporations and autonomous agencies from paying the 1% public auditor fee, pre-filed by myself and several others. I'll leave that open also for any other co-sponsors that want to get on board. This bill, because of the time sensitivity that has been brought up by some of the communications and also during our public comments, will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. And Chairman, I'd like to give that a 2-week deadline. Thank you. I now recognize Representative Donald Magnolia for an unnumbered bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light of recent discovery as well as the public comments that we've heard today, I am formally introducing what is now numbered as House Bill 22-103, and that is to amend Public Law 16-10, Section 2, to allow for the construction of a regulation basketball court and volleyball court. Introduced by myself, and it's open for co-sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Magnolia. House Bill 22-103 will also be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. The floor is still open because of the suspension of rules. If there's any other unnumbered House bills to be introduced, now's the time to do it. All right, I see that there is none. We now move down to House local bills, and I recognize Representative Donald Magnolia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Formally introducing House Local Bill number 22-33 to appropriate $100,000 from the poker licensing fee account, specifically under Business Unit 3302 and for other purposes, introduced by myself. And if I may, also introducing House Local Bill 22-34 to appropriate $150,000 from the Rota Municipal Scholarship Foundation Reserve Account, specifically under Business Unit 2301 and for other purposes, pre-filed by myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Donald Magnolia. With no further local bills under House local bills, we move forward to House legislative initiatives where we have none. We move down to item number 5, introductions of resolutions. We have none. We'll move down to item number 6, messages from the governor, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have Governor's Communication 22-125 to 22-129.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion under messages from the governor? Floor is open. I recognize Representative Selena Babauta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to state for the record, with respect to Governor's Communication 22-128, that I have received messages and phone calls. This is with regard to the retiree bonus and we raised this issue at the time we deliberated on the bill. I have received concerns from various departments whose personnel actions are now being held up at the Office of Management and Budget for their merit increases or their within grade increases, and that they are now, OMB is now waiting for finance to tell them where to get the money to process these personnel actions, because it's now coming to an issue with respect to the funding. As you know, we received communication from the Secretary of Finance that there was no problem taking away from personnel lapses. And OPM has also stated that there is no personnel lapses technically, because every anniversary is different. And that's why these funds have not been used up throughout the year, and it will be used up eventually at the end of the fiscal year because of different anniversary dates for government employees. So I just want to state for the record that we are now coming into issues with respect to the reprogramming of personnel lapses to fund the retiree bonus. As we all know, we voted for that, and we agreed that the retirees should get their bonuses. But I just want to state for the record that we are now coming into issues with respect to the reprogramming of those quote-unquote personnel lapses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Selena Babauta. Floor is still open under Governor's Communication for discussions. Ready? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to thank Representative Selena Babalta for bringing up this issue. I think it also underscores the importance of having the Secretary of Finance come in to address the concerns of the body for not just for this fiscal year, but also for the upcoming fiscal year. I know that he's been off island. There are still many questions on many issues that I'm sure our members, myself included, would have for him, and this would be one of them. We did pass the retiree bonus bill in part with the assurance from finance that the WGIs for employees would not be affected, and that funds had already been identified for that. And so I would like some clarity on this issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. I recognize Representative Sheila Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Rep. Babalta and Rep. Sablan, for just asking questions, because I too would like clarification. On our agenda, it does state that the governor is informing us that he signed this into law in an Appropriations Act amendment to establish a business unit for the retirees bonus and to reappropriate personnel lapses within departments and line item vetoes within Public Law 22-08 to fund the retirees bonus. And so looking at this piece of communication and looking at where those line item vetoes are, it looks like personnel budgets are reduced for many agencies from Department of Fire and Emergency Services, Public Works, Public Safety, DLNR. And so if we're going to be taking money from all the agencies to fund the retiree bonus, I would just like a clear understanding as well. But this is the retirees bonus since Christmas, right? So I'm glad that we're moving forward, but I think it's also really important that we understand what the communications really does state so that we can go out into the community and say, yes, the reason why your department is experiencing a reduction in budget is because we took it and we gave it to retirees. And so at least there's understanding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babalta. I now recognize the Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to clarify the concerns that were brought up by Rep. Sheila Babalta, the line item veto monies that actually came from the House version. So the line item veto portion of 22-8, that they were unobligated funds. We took those monies and we addressed it to the retirees bonuses. These line item departments that you're looking at, that was the Senate version that was given by the Secretary of Finance. We brought up the concern that Rep. Selena Babalta brought up this morning during that session, because we were worried about the WGI issues because of the anniversary dates of our employees. They're spread throughout the year, and the Secretary of Finance had a communication to the House that addressed actually those issues. That's the reason why it is important. That was a concern that we had, and when it was addressed, we were with the understanding that it's taken care of whatever that date was. I think it was in April that we passed this bill, so it was backwards to October 1st. So those individuals that were supposed to get their WGIs after the date that we passed the bill were supposed to be able to address those WGIs. Unfortunately, these concerns are still being brought up today because they encumbered it into the budget, even though their anniversary dates is thereafter or within the fiscal year. So it's included in the budget. So that's where finance was saying that they're getting the money was pre those dates, and for a post the date that we passed the bill and it being signed into law would be able to take care of the WGIs of those members. Sure. Clarification.
Thank you, Rep. Atal. That really does help me understand it. So they're unobligated funds from the agencies, right, past the deadline, past a date.
Not
Do-
necessarily
do they-
unobligated, but when
Oh,
when they
okay.
when they do proposal their budget, right, and we adopt the budget
Right.
before October 1st and it's signed into law, that budget's for the fiscal year.
Right.
So their WGI is already included, but their WGI effective date actually happens, let's say in July or August of within the fiscal year. So it's already been calculated into their salaries.
So do the department heads need to be concerned? Like,
That was our concern when the Senate made the amendment
Yep.
to take away the
Be-
personnel costs, I guess. No, they
So-
transferred out for the bonuses.
right.
That was a concern that we brought up, and we actually reached out to OPM, and OPM had the same concerns. We went to Secretary of Finance. The Secretary of Finance said that has been taken care of. But one of the unfortunate things for us as members of the legislature in this fiscal year is OMB wasn't even a part of the budget process. The submission of the budget to the legislature came directly from finance. So OMB they have somebody under an acting capacity that's, I'm not saying that the individual doesn't know what they're doing, but obviously not a lot of experience, and in a very short period of time in the acting capacity, the budget was due to be submitted to the legislature. Therefore, the full budget submission came from the Department of Finance, which is unfortunate. We might be bringing in OMB into the budget process when we deliberate on the budget, but it's unfair to them because they did not prepare the budget that's been submitted to the legislature. That's why I believe Nadia is her name, right? Nadia
Yes.
had mentioned that they would be proposing a supplemental budget by July 1st. So I'm hopeful that OMB is involved in that process, so that when we call them in,
Because Vicky was-
they can answer for them rather than having the Department of Finance in for a budget hearing and they're answering the budget process at the same time. No?
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Rep. Attal. And thank you for sharing that information. I had no idea about the miscommunications and the, delays and with OMB and the budgeting process. I do know that, yes, Nadia Pua is the acting, and, all the chaos really did happen because of the sudden removals of certain people with experience in that position during this time. So there's just definitely a lot to consider. But in regards to this retiree bonus then, just Mr. Speaker, for clarity, I want to be able to speak on behalf of this information if asked by the secretaries of the various departments. And so it's really for my understanding of how to communicate to them if they say, hey, did you take money away from our department to fund the retiree bonus? Is it a yes or a no? And I would really just appreciate clarity on that, and we can totally talk more offline. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila. Recognize Representative Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just to add on to this same communication, fortunate that we've already scheduled Secretary of Finance to come before the committee twice. Unfortunately, he's been off island those two times, and so we have yet to call him in for a budget hearing. According to Ms. Nadia, we are also expecting a revised budget because, as you see in the initial submission, even MVA was unfunded, and so there are several irregularities in that initial submission, and which is why, again, we're expecting a revised budget to address those concerns. And even upon inviting OMB to sit while we deliberate on the budget process, I was informed that finance would be the best agency to call in to answer these concerns. And I'm assuming this is what the Vice Speaker had mentioned, that it was submitted by finance as opposed to OMB. And so, we've already, as I've stated, we've already scheduled 2 hearings for Secretary of Finance. And, as we schedule the next one, if there's no objections from the members, we'll include in the agenda any subpoena motions in order to get the Secretary of Finance as opposed to any representative should the Secretary of Finance not be available. And so, yeah, if any of the members have any communications with OPM as well as OMB, we can address those when we call in the Secretary of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Donald. Representative Sheila, you had your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Manglonia. That would be amazing if we can get the secretary in for a third invitation, but also OMB, because OMB is really the lead agency during the budgeting process. So the fact that it was submitted without them, that's really unconventional. Like, it's not right. It's usually
Yeah,
OMB
but
that
I
is
think they're
submitted
trying
it.
to meet the deadline.
Right, but, they need to be involved.
Yeah.
So if we can, Mr. Chairman, Manglonia, if the invitation is made, maybe a last one to Secretary Atalig, because, I understand he must travel for work. If a final invitation is made to him, I would really like to request that one is also made to OMB and that we're all there together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babauta. Any further discussions under Governor's communication? Ready? All right. We now move down to item number 7, Senate Communications, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have Senate Communication 22-94.
Thank you, clerk, and I'll recognize the floor leader for the motion to accept Senate Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And now for a motion to accept Senate Communication 22-94, so move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to accept Senate Communications and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? All in favor to accept Senate Communications 22-94, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Senate Communications hereby accepted. We now move down to item number 8, House Communications, and I'll recognize the clerk.
We have House Communication 22-81 to 22-84.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under House Communications? Ready? Thank you. We now move down to item number 9, Communications from the Judicial Branch. We have none. We now move down to item number 10, Communications from the Departments and Agencies, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have Department and Agency Communication 22-51 to 22-56, and the House amended to include Department Agency Communication 22-57 from OPA, comments on House Bill 22-102.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under Communications from Department and Agencies? I recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I wanted to comment on Communication 2251 from the Secretary of Finance regarding the second quarter financial report for this fiscal year. Over the course of the budget hearings that we've had thus far, I've been really struck by how many departments and agencies and municipal offices have reported to us that their allotments are delayed, whether from the general fund or from American Rescue Plan Act funds. And there are a few glaring omissions in the Secretary of Finance's report to the legislature in 2251. And one that I wanted to highlight for us today is that there is no indication of transfers made to the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation or specifically for medical referral. And the Secretary's report mentions compliance with Public Law 2208, our Appropriations Act for this fiscal year, and specifically mentions Section 201 of Public Law 2208. And for just to remind the members, if you recall, one of the provisions in Section 201 was that the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation shall receive advance allotments for the medical referral program. And the budget that the governor submitted, the Appropriations Act that we passed, references both general funds and ARPA funds for CHCC, and specifically for medical referral, which CHCC took over as a result of the Attorney General finding that medical referral had no there was no legal authority for the governor's office to continue to operate it. So CHC assumed responsibility for it, but with the understanding that the resources would be made available to CHC. And for the record, colleagues, my understanding is that the Healthcare Corporation has received zero in general funds since taking over medical referral. And allotments from ARPA have also been very delayed. They still have not received their allocation for the third quarter. And there is no mention, the Secretary of Finance mentions in his report some of the deficits that have already occurred with respect to the other agencies, but there is no discussion at all of what we may be incurring with regard to medical referral. There is no mention at all of medical referral, period, or the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. And I'm very concerned about this. I think we all should be. We have one healthcare system, one public hospital. Medical referral is in dire need of reform. There is a bill on our agenda today that would seek to address that legislatively, but really it comes down to where is the money and why are these promises to CHCC and our medical referral program not being kept from both the general fund as well as from ARPA? I would like to take this up with the Secretary of Finance when he does appear before the Ways and Means Committee. I think we need clarification on that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina. I recognize Representative Sheila Babauta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Rep. Tina, for bringing that up, because in addition to that, many of our nonprofit organizations didn't receive their ARPA response, like no response at all. Nonprofit organizations have asked for ARPA funding, and there's up to 10 million, and they haven't even gotten a response since December, like not even a yes or a no. So, that's really important to me because our nonprofit is at the community level. They have a really good pulse on the community. They do workshops and programs directly with the community and with the youth. And so I share in the same concern that the ARPA funding, like, where is it? And at least communicate with the nonprofit organizations. So in addition to what our next steps are, I would really like to just put out a call. Everybody who hasn't received like your transfers, money that you're supposed to be getting, like yes or no, so that we also have their voice at the table to match what we ask the Secretary and OMB, because last we met, he said on the record when I asked him about responding to the nonprofits that in his mind, he believes that they have responded to all of them. And so there is just a disconnect that we have to work on, and it's a communications thing. So I would be happy to partake in the next steps, Mr. Speaker, but there's $10 million in ARPA funding that can, my goodness, make a huge difference to the nonprofit organizations. And so I would gladly help move this along. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babauta. Any further discussions under communications from department and agencies? We're ready? Okay, members. Again, just for reference purposes, I would like to refer department and agency communication 2251, 2253, 2254, 2255, and 2256 to the Committee on Ways and Means, just for informational purposes. And also the unnumbered, or 22-57 as well, to the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you, members. We now move down to number 11, miscellaneous communications, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have miscellaneous communication 22-116 to 22-118.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under miscellaneous communications? Ready? Okay, thank you, members. We now move down to item number 12, reports of standing committees, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have 3 standing committee reports ready for House action.
Thank you, clerk. I now recognize the floor leader for the motion to adopt standing committee reports. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I'd like to offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-47, reporting on House Bill 22-77, entitled to establish the CNMI Qualified Medical Travel Assistant Program, or MTAP, for other purposes. Your Committee on Health and Welfare recommends that the House passes the bill in form of House Bill 22-77 HS1. So move.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-47, and it has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. For the record, this committee report and the substitute bill that's attached to it is the product of many months of extensive consultation and committee review with many stakeholders, from the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation to the Attorney General's Office, the CNMI Medicaid Agency, the Medical Referral Office, the mayor's offices, concerned citizens. As you may recall, we conducted a series of public hearings on Saipan, Tinian, and Rota last year, as well as multiple public committee meetings. We also reviewed the data and the analysis available from CHCC, the Office of the Public Auditor, Medical Referral, and Finance. So this report summarizes the findings of the committee and explains the basis for the substitute bill that is now being recommended for passage. What has long been known as medical referral is already operating under the umbrella of CHCC, but it is still in transition as a result of the AG finding in June last year that the governor's office lacked legal authority to administer the program. So this substitute bill would, among other things, provide for an orderly transition, protect CHCC from absorbing past liabilities and promissory notes that were accrued by the previous medical referral office, and establish a new health network program that would be fully integrated with the healthcare system, function as part of the hospital, and connect patients to CHCC's network of providers within the Commonwealth as well as outside of the Commonwealth. My one technical correction that I'd like to request the clerk's assistance with is to ensure that the signed versions of the committee meeting minutes and the roll call voting records be made part of this report. The unsigned versions are attached, but there were signed versions that were submitted to the clerk for the record previous to this bill being submitted to the House. So I'd like to ask for your support for this report and for the substitute bill, colleagues, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Council clerks that noted your technical amendments, right? Rep. Tina? Yeah. Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you, Council. Thank you, Representative Tina. Recognize the floor, leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just for clarification, because I didn't read the second part, to establish the healthcare network programs, did we change the title? I mean, okay, so let me just read that out, Mr. Speaker. After I read the word "and for other purposes," the corrected version now is to establish the health network program, HNP, under the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation to provide the orderly transition of medical referral services, service administration, and operation to CHCC and for other purposes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, floor leader, for that. No, go ahead. You're good.
So let me withdraw that if I needed to. Okay, I just saw it right now.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that clarification, floor leader. I recognize Representative Sheila Babauta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're still under discussion for the Standing Committee report? Yes, I just really, as a committee member in the Health and Welfare Committee under Chairwoman Tina Sablan, I really want to just express my full support for this Standing Committee report. We've done so much work on it. The leadership of Rep. Sablan was really thorough and it was meaningful. We got a lot of public comments from patients and escorts, and we had public hearings on all 3 islands. We heard from medical referral, the Attorney General's office, and referral program when it comes to medical referral services. And so this was a great experience. Thank you, Rep. Sablon. Like, I got to hear a lot of stories. I learned a lot of stories too from our Rep. Sablon has been on medical referral with her father, so she has direct experience with the medical referral. And so does Rep. Atal, so this is a long-standing issue that we've been wanting to address because medical referral to many leaders is like a black hole of funding. And now we're addressing it. We're really addressing it. And so I fully support this committee report. I'm very proud and honored to be a part of it. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Rep. Sablon, for your leadership.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babato. Any further discussions under committee report, Standing Committee Report 22-47? Ready? Ready? All in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-47, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-47 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, can we take a quick short recess?
Okay, quick
Just
recess.
yeah.
Quick, short recess. First, we'll rise back to session. Before we went on recess, we were under reports of standing committee, and the floor leader had the floor. So back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next on our standing committee reports is Standing Committee Report 22-45 reporting. I offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-45 reporting on the appointment of Mr. Oscar Patrick Kitagua to serve as a member of the Public Utilities Commission representing the 1st Senatorial District. Your Committee on Public Utilities, Transportation, and Communication recommends the confirmation of Mr. Kitagua's appointment. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to adopt standing committee report number 22-45, and it has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I wanted to make a comment that I guess would apply to both nominations that are on the table today, because we do need a functioning Public Utilities Commission, and the PUC does need a quorum of qualified members, but they also need the resources and the capacity to exercise proper oversight on CUC. CUC's rate structure, for example, needs serious review. The fact that they can just adjust the fuel adjustment charge whenever they want, however they want, totally on their own without any independent oversight is a big problem. And we all hear it from our constituents, from the ratepayers. We feel it ourselves. And I want to also note that the rate structure as a whole also needs review. The fact that the government rate for utilities is far, far higher than the commercial rate. Maybe there was a time when this kind of structure made sense. It was intended to be like a subsidy really for both commercial and residential ratepayers. But when the government is also struggling to pay its utilities and either doesn't pay at all or goes for many, many months without paying, that also affects CUC operations and it affects all ratepayers. So I do think that the rate structure, among many other aspects of CUC operations, really needs review. And I would urge the PUC members, once we confirm them and once they have a quorum and once we make sure that they also have the resources, that they make this review of CUC and oversight on CUC a priority in this term. Thank you. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Any more discussions? Okay, we're ready. So just so we're clear, the adoption of this committee report will signal the confirmation of the nominee. With no further discussions, I recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Ada? Representative Patel?
Yes.
Representative Selena Babauta? Representative Sheila Babauta? Representative Joel Komatsu? Representative Vicente Camacho? I'm sorry. Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama? Representative Magovnia? Representative Panglonia?
Yes.
Representative Probst? Representative Christina Sablan? Representative John Paul Sablan? Representative St. Nicholas? Representative Staffler? Representative Yanktamite? Representative Humo?
Yes.
Representative Ada?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama? Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. Recognize your privilege. Okay, clerk, was Representative Flores called? Yeah. Thank you, clerk. All right, thank you, clerk. And with 18 members voting yes, standing committee report 22-45 is hereby adopted, confirming Mr. Oscar Patrick Kitagua. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And last on our list, I offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-46, reporting on the appointment of Mr. Ramon S. Basa to serve as member of the Public Utilities Commission representing the 3rd Senatorial District. Your Committee on Public Utilities, Transportation, and Communication recommends the confirmation of Mr. Basa's appointment. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt Standing Committee Report number 22-46 has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Again, just like Standing Committee Report 22-45, the adoption of this committee report will confirm Mr. Ramon S. Basa. I recognize the clerk now to call the roll.
Representative Ada?
Yes.
Representative Fatal? Yes. Representative Selena Babata? Representative Sheila Babata?
Again,
Representative Joel Komatsu? Representative Flores? Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama? Representative Magofnia? Representative Manglonia? Representative Probst? Representative Christina Sablan? Representative John Paul Sablan? Representative Siniklos? Representative Staffler? Representative Yang Tamay? Representative Yumo? Mr. Speaker?
Awed.
Mr. Speaker, all 18 members present, vote yes.
Thank you. We move down to item number 13, reports of special and conference committees. We have none. Item number 14, unfinished business. We have none. Item number 15, resolution calendar. We have none. And we now move down to the bill calendar, item number 16, and I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And now offer a motion to pass House Bill 22-77, HS1, a bill for an act to establish the healthcare network program under the Commonwealth Corporation to provide for orderly transition for the medical referral services administration and operations to CHCC and for other purposes. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to pass House Bill number 22-77 in the form of House Substitute 1, and it has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So just for some additional background for the record, for the members' benefit, from the beginning of this term, the Health and Welfare Committee took on the initiative to review and reform the medical referral program in light of these longstanding historical issues that have affected the program, issues that are highlighted in these findings, in the findings of the bill, and that continue to this day. This includes the lack of any enabling statute that clearly sets forth the legal authority and parameters for services, the chronic underfunding of the medical referral program, and the difficulties that the program has had in containing costs, minimizing patients' lengths of stay, and ensuring effective communications, record keeping, case management, and coordination of care. So this legislation, House Bill 2277, House Substitute 1, was drafted in close coordination with the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation, taking into account the reports, comments, and recommendations that we received from CHCC, from the medical referral staff, from the Rota and Tinian Health Centers, the Attorney General's Office, Finance, Special Assistant for Administration, the Medicaid Agency, the Office of the Public Auditor, and many concerned citizens. And I just wanted to share some of the highlights of the bill. One is to provide for the orderly transition of the off-island medical referral services program from the governor's office to CHCC, to include protecting CHCC from incurring outstanding debts and liabilities of the former medical referral office, and to clarify that outstanding promissory notes shall remain a receivable of the central government and not the responsibility of CHCC. This was a big issue for them, and they wanted to make sure that those issues would be addressed in this bill. Two is to establish a new health network program that was an integrated service of the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation, whose role is to connect patients to CHCC's network of providers and provide patients with access to care outside of the CNMI services that would be beyond CHCC's capacity or availability. One important distinction of this network of providers, as the CEO of CHCC noted in our meeting with her with the committee, is that patients who must travel outside of the CNMI for care would not be limited just to the locations where there is a referral office or a logistics service provider. So this bill sets forth the duties and responsibilities of the health network program to include assisting eligible CNMI patients in accessing care. It also includes duties to maintain program data and report on that data to the legislature and the governor, coordinate medical records, identify and pursue opportunities to improve care in the CNMI and reduce the need for patients to travel outside of the Commonwealth, and as well as the duty to operate the health network program within appropriated funding levels and to promulgate rules and regulations. So I, again, ask for your support, colleagues, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Any further discussions? Ready? All right. With no further discussions, I recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Ada? Representative Athol? Yes. Representative Selena Babauta? Representative Sheila Babauta?
Again,
Representative Joel Komatsu? Representative Flores? Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama? Representative Magofnia? Representative Magnolia? Yes. Representative Probst?
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan? Yes. Representative John Paul Sablan? Okay. Representative Siniclas?
Yes.
Representative Staffler?
Again.
Representative Yanktamite? Representative Humo? Yes. Representative Ada? Representative Ada?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker?
Aware.
Mr. Speaker, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. And with 18 members voting yes, House Bill number 22-77, House Substitute 1, hereby passes the House. Thank you, members. And with no other bills under bill calendar, we now move down to item number 17, miscellaneous business. And the floor is open. Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just going to make this brief. It has been continuously brought to my attention that some of our government employees have been receiving some termination letters, and sorry, it's kind of a touchy issue for me because some of these people are actually family members of mine. So I want to make the public understand and know that I'm going to be really looking into this issue. I will be bringing it up to the Attorney General's office, and please reach out to my office and Rep. Selena Babauta's office if you feel political intimidation or any of that sort. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Joel Camacho. Before we move forward, Clerk, can you note, I did receive a message from Representative Vicente Camacho, so mark him excused for this session. Thank you. Vice Speaker, did you?
No.
Oh, okay. Representative Selena, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to commend Representative Joel Camacho for being on the record. I also want to state for the record that I have been communicating with officials and attorneys who are ready and stand ready to assist government employees who are receiving their termination letters out of political retaliation. And just as I predicted, several weeks ago that termination letters will begin to be issued after the impeachment hearing at the Senate. As we all know, that Senate hearing has concluded, and immediately upon conclusion of that hearing, the notices for termination have been issued as of that date. I know of at least 6 people who have received their letters already. In fact, just this morning before we headed up here to conduct this session, I received another phone call this morning from Saipan from a family member who is seeking my assistance to assist them with their family members' termination letter. So I will be getting that termination letter, as well as others who have reached out to me. Will be receiving the notices of their termination soon, and as soon as I get back to Saipan, I will be working on assisting these people. To those government employees who have received their notices to be terminated by the administration, my advice to you is do not resign. You have every right under the law not to be intimidated or terminated for political reasons, and we are willing to assist you. Please reach out to Representative Joel Camacho and my office, or anybody you're comfortable with, so that we can help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Selena Babalta. I now recognize Representative Ed Probst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. And before I begin, I just want to thank the wonderful people of Rota once again for just their outstanding, amazing hospitality. It's such a joy and such a just a pleasure to come to the beautiful island of Rota and just enjoy just so much that they have to offer. So once again, we are most grateful to the wonderful, beautiful people of Rota. Thank you. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, I do want to, of course, echo the sentiments of Rep. Joel Camacho and Rep. Selena Babalta on this political intimidation and these notices or proverbial pink slips that are going out. I also want to remind them that yes, they do have rights, but also please do reach out to the Office of the Public Auditor, reach out to the Attorney General, and of course, reach out to your representatives in this matter so that we can assist you to the best we can. It's very sad that politics always has this, and it was expected, and it's just a sad time. I also want to add, Mr. Speaker, something that has really been troublesome and disheartening, and I hope this is August body, and find out what exactly is going on when it comes to the payout for those who lost a loved one from the government. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, my father passed away on March 22. The life insurance payout that was supposed to go to my mother, Juanita Probst, until this day has not been paid. And I went and I talked to IAC. It's because the government has not put in the share. But I also shared that on Facebook. And of course, a lot of constituents reach out to me. Some who had a loved one pass away in January and didn't get paid, or some haven't gotten paid. We're talking about a 4-month delay. Where is the money? Where is the money? You mean to tell me that you can give out $257,000 in no problem in paying in advance, but you cannot pay for life insurance for those that are depending on this? It is very frustrating. It is very disheartening that this is happening, especially to those who really need the money. Why is this happening? We need to find out. We need to call in the Secretary of Finance and everyone else and find out exactly why is this huge delay, waiting 4 months, 5 months for a life insurance payout that is supposed to be paid out normally when money was good, when money was flowing, sometimes 2-day turnaround. Some people wait 2 weeks, but 4 months? Come on. This is ridiculous. These families need help. Those that lost a loved one need help. And I'm very just sad to see these long delays because the government is not paying their share. I'm asking you, colleagues, Mr. Speaker, to please find out and fight for our constituents. Fight for me too, for my mom, who is dementia, who is bedridden, who has health issues, chronic health issues, so that we can help assist our loved ones to the best we can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues.
Thank you, Representative Probst. Recognize Representative Sheila Babauta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to comment on the pink slip situation because that's really disappointing. That's embarrassing, and I can't believe our government, or like we experienced that here in the CNMI. You know, we live in a beautiful place, and the fact that people are receiving like retaliation, and I know it's a long-standing issue, but it's just embarrassing. And it's a reality that I share when I travel. Like these are realities for us. We have political turmoil. We have, you know, symptoms of colonialism. We have climate change. But I know that we can be better and we can do better. And I just wanted to drive in the idea that OPA is going to play a pivotal role in things like this. When you receive a pink slip, you know, and when you feel like it's retaliation, OPA's role is to address that. So Rep. Joelle, Rep. Selena, thank you for taking the lead on giving people a place to go, because I've been there, and it's scary. Good thing I don't have kids, you know. So I know how they feel. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babauta. And I'll recognize Representative Leila Staffler.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to also reiterate how unfortunate it is that our community is going through the pink slip situation, and reiterate how important updating our whistleblower laws could be. Right now, 2283, I believe, is in the Senate and is just waiting for some action. Or no, it's not. It's still in our committee right here. Sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. My bad. I wish it was in the Senate, but I would like to urge our JGO colleagues to act on that update, but also for our community to there is already an existing Whistleblower Compensation Act bill on, or law on the books, and if you feel that you might be able to avail of might be able to contribute by seeing how your issue might fit into that current law, standing law, I urge you to look into it. It is Public Law 14-60, and it is in act as we speak. And I hope that the JGO will consider the updates that I've offered. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Leila Staffler. I now recognize Representative Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I was hoping Board Member Regis was still here, but with the 2-week deadline on the committee's deliberation on House Bill 22102, we will be scheduling a committee meeting on the 8th. I know we're trying to get all agencies done in regards to the budget hearings. Right now on calendar, the last agency will be on the 7th, and so I want to move directly into getting the clarification we need in order to act on 102. And so if CPA and OPA are currently watching, and we'll reach out as well. We hope that all parties can reserve that day to come in before the committee and answer any questions that the members may have. And so members, please reserve that day and invite any stakeholders that would love to comment and provide their inputs on House Bill 22102. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Donald. Floor is still open for miscellaneous. I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in line with the budget talk, this is also to request the Ways and Means to do a follow-up on the ARPA spending with the CNMI. What was posted during the NCSL, the CNMI has only accounted for $117 million, which still remains $364 million that still hasn't been decided on. Jurisdiction like American Samoa, they're spending their ARPA on $370 million on healthcare. and we haven't seen any of that going to our healthcare or even as far as our utilities, which is going to be a big issue during the summer. Our other neighboring jurisdiction, like Guam, has spending over $20 million in a small business pandemic assistance grant program. We haven't seen any of that here in the cinema yet. So that's something that we need to really look at and look at our other neighboring jurisdiction and how they are spending their ARPA funds. And that's something that we should be really pushing for. From the last budget meeting with the OMB, it sounded like they have all expended the amount, but we don't know where in our local jurisdiction. The CNMI has spent over 75 million on governmental services, which is salaries of staff, and other jurisdictions have not spent that much. So that's something that we need to look at because when the fiscal cliff ends with the ARPA funds, where is the CNMI going to be at prior to or after this pandemic? It's going to be the same or even worse as what we're going to be experiencing in the next couple of years. So that's something the Ways and Means Committee should look at again. I know I'm not a member of the Ways and Means anymore, unless someone's stepping down. But anyways, that's it. That's just a friendly remark to the Ways and Means. Thank you.
Thank you, Floor Leader. I recognize Representative Sheila Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Rep. Yumo. That was all very helpful, valuable information. ARPA is a never before, once in a lifetime. Rep. JP, you're making me laugh. We never really sit this close to each other. So ARPA is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the CNMI, and it's really important to see how other jurisdictions are spending it and how we're spending it. This is never gonna happen again. I'm usually an optimist, but 500, almost $1 billion? When are we gonna get $1 billion on our lap? And what are we doing with it? If our nonprofits aren't getting it, our small businesses, the hospital, what are we doing with it? It's been a year and there's a timeline. It's 2024. Like, what is the plan? Where are we at? Like, everybody's wondering. And so, I really look forward to what we believe our next step should be, whether that's, and who is going to be involved, OMB, finance, who is at the helm of ARPA. We would really like, and we would like updates, we would like engagement, we would like communication, because a lot of people are worried that we are wasting this opportunity, that we are wasting it. And we're not a community of waste. We're resourceful, and that's what happens when you grow up on an island. You're resourceful. You're at the farm, you're fishing at the beach, and you're hunting. We make good use of our resources, and ARPA is once in a lifetime. So thank you, Rep. Yumo, for that information. It was really valuable.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babalta. Please bring us to your farm and take us fishing too. Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, and thanks to our colleagues who brought up the issue one of the GHLI and the government's obligation to pay out life insurance, and also to report on American Rescue Plan Act spending. These are two more things to add to the list, Chairman Manguania, for questions we have for the Secretary of Finance that we need him to come in and answer. On the subject of the political termination notices and all the political intimidation and retaliation that we've been seeing, especially since the Senate impeachment trial concluded, but even before that. Thank you for calling attention to that, colleagues. Rep. Camacho, Rep. Babalta, Rep. Staffler, Rep. Sheila Babalta, Rep. Probst, thank you for raising that. And in addition to reaching out to representatives, I wanted to encourage people who are the victims of this retaliation to also reach out to federal authorities. A lot of these jobs may or may not be of interest to federal authorities. There may be federal funds implicated as well. So I think reach out to the reps, reach out to OPA, the Attorney General's office, as well as federal investigators, and share your story. Because this kind of intimidation and these tactics are just, it's more than embarrassing. It is embarrassing. It's shameful. It's outrageous, and it's totally unacceptable. This is really no way to run a government, and public servants should not have fear of losing their jobs because of their politics and their political views. It's totally an offense to our democracy, and it needs to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina. Any further under miscellaneous? Ready? All right, we now move down to item number 18, announcements. Recognize Representative Donald Mangloni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, tomorrow we have our public hearing on the minimum wage bill, authored by Rep. Tina Sablan. We are getting, I have been getting some calls and messages in regards to this bill. Interested individuals on Rota are wanting to comment on it, but I invite, if any of the members are still here or aren't leaving it, you're more than welcome to sit in and listen, as you know, when it comes time to addressing this in front of the full body. A lot of these comments could help you in making that decision. And so non-members, and this goes to any budget hearing as well, on Rota, as well as when we call in the Department of Finance, you're always welcome to sit in and as a guest, and even just as a member of the House. And so I invite all of you to participate and listen to any of the comments that will be brought up on the committee tomorrow. And so with that, again, just a reminder, and then we also have our budget hearing for Rota starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. All the way till 2:30 on Friday, with the last agency being called in. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. Any further under announcements? Recognize Representative Sheila Babauta.
You're not doing your job. You're just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, great session today. My announcement is that Rota is delicious, and we're going to have lunch at Puesto Grill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone here is invited, including Legislative Bureau and staff. Thank you for being here with us on the beautiful island of Rota. It is Italian and Filipino food. Thank you, Rep. Probes, for making pre-orders that you're going to share. And thank you, Rep. Danita, for bringing her staff. Thank you for bringing your staff, your team. They're helping prep right now. And congratulations to Puesto Grill. I'm excited to try it. It's Italian and Filipino food. I'm not sure who the local owners are, but this is one way for us to support local. So let's go and spend our per diem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Recognize Representative Selena Babauta.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to announce to the community of Rota and to the members, you're welcome to join the JGO public hearing this afternoon at 2:30 p.m., where we will be addressing 4 legislative initiatives on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Selena. Will there be food? I'm just kidding. Floor still open. Announcement. Ready? Ready? Okay, now move down to adjournment, and I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I offer a motion to adjourn subject to the call of the chair. So move.
Thank you. A motion has been made by the floor leader for the adjournment and has been seconded. Any discussions? Did you raise your hand, Representative? Okay, we'll do a group photo after adjournment. With no further discussions? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, stay. The ayes have it. This session is hereby adjourned.